Hey guys, how many times do you have to see something being done the wrong way with the wrong materials over and over and over again before you truly decide to help? Well, this is something we've experienced over our 6-year journey, and we want to share it with you to save you a lot of money during these COVID times. Hope you like it. Keep watching the video.
I was standing outside waiting for you. You were always taking time, baby, playing it through. I was calling out your name, with my eyes on the wall. You were running like a ghost from me.
So I realized that my vessel to communicate and provide value might change, whether we're doing it on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or any other medium, podcast, whatever. We realize that this vessel will change over time, but the goal and the message will always remain the same, and that is just to help people and alleviate them of their hardships. That's always been the goal, and that continues to be the goal. So as we continue to experience things and overcome challenges in our journey, we want to keep providing value along the way. And this particular issue with failed coatings and failed cement screeds that continue to be prevalent in our experiences, we want to talk more about that. So this will most definitely, if you're rebuilding or building from new, this will save you a lot of money. It's very important to know what to look for and know what services to use. A lot of the times, half the battle is just choosing what service to install. So we're going to continue to talk about this in this video and many others because, during COVID, during these times, I myself have had to refocus and rethink how we're going to proceed with the business because of all the challenges. The government keeps locking us down, so we can't work, full working days. A lot of other businesses are completely shut down and not working at all. Tourism is completely shut down, and it has been since March, the last 8 months, I believe now. So all of these challenges are directly going to affect the economy, affect my business as well as many others. A lot of people have to be a lot more price conscious and careful with their spending. So we're going to try to continue to provide as much value as we can during these times, because it's very hard for everyone. And if I can help, that makes me feel better at the end of the day, knowing that I'm doing the right thing and passing on what I've learned to others. Thing. So in this video, we're trying to touch on failed coatings. We often run into situations where a previous contractor or a previous installer of a coating or just a cement screed. A screed is basically a thin layer of concrete or mortar on a floor. A lot of the times in the Caribbean, they just use sand and cement. Just like if they were to do a cement rendering plaster on a wall, they do that on floors. A lot of the times when the floor is moving, it'll delaminate. They won't use proper primers or any primer for that matter. And the thin layer of cement that they put down on the floor will start to detach from the concrete slab. These are typically used for leveling the floor. If they were going to put down a vinyl tile or a carpet, or even sometimes a ceramic tile in the Caribbean, they do some pretty interesting things to say. Slab and start from scratch and use proper materials, because they do actually make, you know, materials that are intended to go down thin as an underlayment, and they won't crack or delaminate if you use the proper prep mainly, as well as the proper primers and installation processes. So that's what, you know, we spend a lot of our time on, getting training on how to install these coatings properly. But the reality of the situation is, you know, there's a lot of people, especially during these times. Obviously this happens all year round, any year, but a lot of times people will cut corners.
Getting to work.
First of all, never show up on time. And if a supervisor happens to ask you where you were, your response should sound something like this. Manuel, why were you late?
Man, I got here when I could.
But, you know, at the end of the day, they have to feed their families and they have to provide and pay their bills. So a lot of the times corners will be cut, prices will be reduced just to secure a contract. And, you know, at the end of the day, the client usually unknowingly signs up for this contract, and then years down the road, sometimes days down the road, sometimes months down the road, they're left with a floor or a coating that is failing and cracking and peeling off the original concrete slab, and you know, it's very disheartening. But I would say over the last 6 years, 60 to 70% of the jobs we're called in to either consult on or fix or remedy, it's caused by these issues where the wrong prep is done, a lack of education on installing these services is the result of them failing, and a lot of the times just poor prep and poor priming or no priming at all. They had about an inch of sand and cement mortar mix on top of a concrete water slide that wasn't primed. And, you know, with water running on it constantly, that increases the level of risk that you're taking by putting a cheap coating on top of a concrete water slide. It's bound to fail, but even if it wasn't a water slide and it was a floor, which we see all the time, they have products that are intended to level floors, that are intended to smooth out floors, but you have to mechanically grind the concrete or acid etch it of some sort. You have to prep the concrete surface before putting anything on it. You can't just pressure wash it and put it down, especially when it comes to cementitious coatings or resinous coatings. If you have a relatively flat surface and the concrete's in good condition and you're putting a natural stone coating with epoxy, that's different. You can pressure wash it and put it down without too much issue. But all of the cement screeds that we see from day to day in the Caribbean is just people need to stop doing it. It never lasts. It rarely lasts. Let me correct myself. It rarely lasts. There are a few instances where we have seen some good screeds, but for the most part, if they're doing a cement screed and if they're just using regular Portland cement and water and sand, be very wary of putting that down on your floor to save money, especially if you're going to go on top of it with a high performance coating like an epoxy or a polished concrete or a tile even. They sell materials, and there are contractors trained for installing these under layman's and specialty coatings, and cutting corners in this particular step of the process can cost you a lot of money, and there's not a lot of money these days, so hopefully that helps.